Hello there, welcome back. This is going to be the fourth video in my series, learning the notes on the DG Melodeon. I would highly recommend it, if you've not seen them already, is to see the first three and then come back to this. Then it will make sense, I hope. Anyway, in the last video we finished the G major scale and we learnt the final four notes that made that one up on our instrument, and that was enough, as I mentioned previously, to play at least some simple tunes, some folk tunes certainly. However, it turns out that there's probably more tunes that need a bit more than that. Just those in G major, sometimes they go a bit higher than that scale and sometimes they go a bit lower. So in this video we'll add some extra notes onto what we've learned, just to give you that flexibility to cover quite a lot more tunes. Okay then, so what can we do to extend our scale? Well, first of all, I suppose we can carry on like we were before and go up even higher on the keyboard. So we'll do that. We'll add two more notes. So get our melodica or our piano type keyboard to show you. Previously we went from this low G up to this high G as a scale. So we ended up here. And so where do we go next? Well, if we go one note further in the scale, much like we did when we started out, we go from that G to this one, which is an A, or A natural. And then from there, we'll do the same as we did before again, go up the alphabet, A natural, B, B natural. So yeah, it's going to mirror this, and this is going to be an octave, a higher version of this B, and this one here, this is going to be an octave A above this one. So we'll show you what that sounds like. So here's the G, and here's like the B and then the lower B, both together, and then we'll do the A. So there's the A, that's high one, and here's the lower one. So it's just like we did before, but higher up. So where does that live on a keyboard? Go back to where we started, go to our main root, that's a useful word, root G note, and then we'll go G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. That's what we did in the previous videos. And so to get the next note, the A, we going to pull on the next note. So this is the seventh one on this instrument, and then to get the B, we push that same seventh button, so that's a B. So we go G, and then we pull this one A, and then we push this one B. So it turns out that the pushing and pulling sequence is the same as it was down here. We pushed the G, then we pulled the A, and then we pushed the B. Then up here we pushed the G, we pulled the A, and we pushed the B. So no change there, except one thing you'll notice down here, the G and the A were both on the third button. They're on the same button together, and the B was on the next one along. So they're on the same, and that's the next one. Up here, the G is on this button, the sixth one, and the A is not on the same one, because we already know that there's an F sharp on there if we pull it. So the A is on the next one along, so it's not, this time the A is not on the same button as the G, which is, and then the B is on the same as the A, whereas before it wasn't. So there's a difference between how we play the scale in this lower part, the lower octave, and then how we do it in the upper version, the upper octave. And if you find that confusing, well, yeah, it is. That's just a fact of life with Melodians, that the logic of it doesn't quite do what you might expect when you first encounter it, and that's one of the reasons for doing these videos, I suppose, to start pointing these things out. Now there are certainly some players of DG Melodeons, DG diatonic accordions, that mostly play down here and play the lower notes and tend to avoid going up here and playing the higher ones for that very reason, I think. Just because it starts getting confusing. It's not the same, you've got to learn it separately when you start going up there. But well, that's what this video is for. This is about extending what you know, and knowing that the A and the B are on that 7th button is certainly a start to that. Incidentally, it's one other reason why some players tend to avoid playing this end of the keyboard, and that is that if you've got, say, certainly some instruments are set up so that these notes are very, very high. Yeah, and that's not nice to listen to. So some people avoid playing because of those high notes. However, there is a way around that. If you've got a different instrument, or perhaps one that can support it, like this one, it is possible to get an instrument that has got an extra set of reeds that are an octave lower, and so we can play it without those and it will sound like this. And if I put the extra reeds in, it will sound like, and that makes a big difference when we're playing these end of row buttons, because if without it, it's going to sound, yeah, really horribly high. And put it back in again, it's still high, but it's much more pleasing. So if you've got an instrument that has got at least third set of, or a set of lower reeds in, that makes playing this end better. But that's an aside anyway. So yeah, where were we? We have covered the higher A and the higher B, so that's extended our coverage of the G major scale by 2 more notes, so that's good. So to extend our scale, we carried on going up the keyboard. It will be possible to carry on going even further, and we will do that in a later video. But for now, what I wanted to do was go the other way, to start on our low G note and get lower. So how can we do that? What will that mean? Go back to our trusty piano keyboard and find the low G note, which is that one that we've been using. And then we're going to use our G major scale to go the other way. So if we were to start with the high G note, we already know that the next one down in our scale is actually that F sharp, the pesky F sharp one there. So it stands to reason that if we're going to start on the lower one, this lower G, the next one down from there would also be an F sharp. And that's true, that's the one we want to use. So yep, we've kind of already know enough to have figured that one out. Our next note is an F sharp. So where is that on our Melodeon? Well, this one's probably not going to be too much of a surprise. We'll go on to here, we'll play our G note on the 3rd button. And we know that if we pull on that one, we get an A, so it's definitely not going to be an F sharp there. So instead we need to go one button again along, so we're on the 2nd button now, and we're going to pull that one. Remember, we pulled the F sharp in the upper octave, so we're going to pull it here as well, and that's it, there's your F sharp. You can do a nice fire engine impression with that. There we go, that was quick and easy, wasn't it? F sharp in the lower octave. So if we've gone to F sharp, you might as well keep going and go the next one down. And if you remember, get our piano keyboard. When we were in the top, we already went to G, and if we went back down the scale we had an F sharp. The next one we used was E natural, this one. So if we were to go down the bottom and start with our root G, and we would do the F sharp like we just did, and then there's again another lower E note, which is that one. So we'll do that one next. And I should probably point out that yet again there is an F natural note on the piano keyboard, but we don't use that for our G major scale on the Melodeon. So okay, so where's the E note? We've had the G one there, no sorry, that's the one, and then we played the F sharp by pulling on this second button. And yeah, this is where things get weird again. There is no E note on our inner row. It's a bit weird, but it's not there. It's just not there at all. So do we have an E note? And actually we do, because it so happens that there is an E note on the outer row, and so we have to use that one. If you played for any time, you're probably going to know that, but yeah, that's the one we're going to be looking for. So where's that? We start on our G to get our bearings. We'll play our F sharp, and then with our middle finger, what we'll do is we'll bring that in onto the outer row right next door. So it's going to be there, and actually on this instrument we're going to be on the third button along on the outer row, and we're going to pull it, and that's our E. So G, F sharp, E. So you want to practice that if you've not learnt that before, of just finding that instinctively when you're going down. G, F sharp, and then E on the outer one, that one. You'll note that in the upper octave we did have an E on this row, it's just we don't have that lower one. So if you wanted to, you could play them together. So let's find our E. So we went G, A, B, C, D, E, that one, and then play it alongside that new one, and then we've got an E octave. So playing across the rows to have two E's together gives you that sound. There we go. It's getting more and more confusing, isn't it? Now we're having to go across and everything. Don't worry, there's certainly more to learn, but I did say back in the introduction, take your time with this, learn one thing at a time, just stick with it until it's natural, and then just learn the next one. Don't try to do it all at once, because, well, unless you've got a much bigger brain than I have, it just won't work. There's a lot to learn. You want to do it gradually just to let it all sink in. So there's one more note that we're going to cover in this video, and I'll let you guess what it is. See if you're right. So did you guess D natural? If you did, well done. That's the one we're going to do now. This is the last note that we're doing in this particular video, and it's the last one we're doing where we're extending the scope of the G major scale that we learnt before. So we already know G, F sharp, E, so we're going to need a next one down, a D note. So get our keyboard, see what it looks like on there, because this does help you visualize it if you can play it on one of these. So we just did that G, and the next one is D, and as I pointed out at the top, the D note is the one which is between the two black notes which are on their own. It's always that. That's always a D. That's a D. Up here there's two black notes together, and that's a D as well, but ignore that for now. But yeah, that's the one we're looking at. And so where is it? Okay, is this going to be easy? Not completely. As you're beginning to find out, I guess, Melodians are strange creatures, and what you're going to get next is the first example we've looked at, where exactly the same note in exactly the same octave and even exactly in the same bellows direction, there's two places you can play that same note. Why? What's the point of having a duplicate? There is some logic, but for now it's going to seem weird. But that D note is in two places, so I'm going to show you both places where we can find it. There's going to be more of this duplication later, but this is the first time I've mentioned it in these videos. So we're going to play a D. So we played a G, and then we played the F sharp, and then we played the E. So the first place I'm going to show you we can play that D is actually on that same button that we played the E, and instead of pulling it for the E, we push it, and that gives us our D. Sounds good. Or we'll go back the other way. If you're practicing these, go both ways, jump about, whatever. Get familiar with it. So that's our first D note, and that's on the outer row, and that again is on the third button on this instrument. Yours might be different, but that's how this one is. However, there's another D that you probably will have as well, and I'll show you that, and that's on the inside row, and that is going to be on the same button that we already used to play the F sharp. So we played G and we played F sharp on that second button, but if you push it instead of pulling it, because the F sharp was pulling, you get that D. So so if you play the D on the outside and then the inside, it's the same note on two completely different buttons. Melodians are strange, it must be said, and that's how it is. So which one do you use? Well, for the most part it doesn't really matter. You can choose one or the other, it's going to sound the same and no one would ever hear any difference. However, choosing one or the other can sometimes help with which finger you're using. Sometimes it's easier to use one of them or the other one. If you're playing a chord, for instance, you're playing several other notes, sometimes it's more comfortable to choose one than the other. Personally, even in G major, I'm more likely to use the one on the outside, just because it's on the same button that the E is, and often you play them in sequence. So I often use that one, but you can still use this one, it's up to you. Your choice. So that's extended our G major scale by going up 2 notes and then adding 3 notes going downwards, and you'll find that those extra notes are enough to let you play loads of folk tunes. Not many go lower than that or go higher than that, and so just those ones alone, if you know what they are, you're going to use those loads and get a lot of use from that. So just knowing the names of any of those notes is going to be a good thing. However, you will notice though that well, there's loads more buttons that we've not even talked about yet. So what's the deal with that? Why have we got so many other ones? We'll get to that in a following video. So for now, cheers, goodbye, and check out the next one.